Sleep. Probably one of the most significant and frequently asked questions that parents in the first 2 years have is around sleep. And for good reason. The expectations that we generally have about how babies sleep and how much they sleep is not often well aligned with the biology of sleep or the developmental expectations that are reasonable for sleep. One of the most frequent questions that parents ask is whether my baby is getting enough sleep. And so they turn to guidelines that are printed in textbooks or pamphlets and information that says that babies must sleep X number of hours of sleep a night in order not to have an impact on development or behavior or social emotional well-being, and of course parent well-being as well. These guidelines that parents are often finding also are not well aligned with the biology or development of sleep and don't take into consideration just how wide a range there is for normal sleep at each age of development in the first few years in particular. There is a resource that recently came out a few years ago based on a 2014 study that looked at how much sleep do we really need from birth right up into 60s, 70s, and 80s. They gathered a lot of the research to find out what the ranges are and came up with some new recommendations that may be helpful for you as a parent if you are worried about whether your baby is getting enough sleep. The ranges are broad. And I think this is a good thing because what it does is acknowledge that every baby needs a particular amount of sleep optimally for them. And that may be different than other babies within that family circle or within a collection of moms that are comparing notes on how many hours their babies are sleeping and napping. As one example, for age 4 months to 11 months, the National Sleep Foundation has suggested that sleep anywhere between 10 hours to 18 hours a day within a 24-hour period, including naps, is typical. Now, the narrower range for that is 12 to 15 hours as recommended, but the 10 to 18 hours may be appropriate, acknowledging that some babies really don't need nearly as much sleep as we need them to have. And other babies are getting so much that it can be worrisome in the other direction. And yet it can still fall within that range of 10 to 18 hours in a 24-hour period. What is a better indicator, perhaps, of whether your baby is getting enough sleep is not necessarily the number of hours in a day, but how their mood is when they wake up. A baby that is well rested, is waking up at the end of a sleep cycle, and is restored through sleep will tend to wake up fairly pleasantly, fairly ready to tackle the day or to carry on with the day after a nap. And this indication acknowledges that your baby's sleep needs are going to be unique and that their mood may just be the best reflection of whether those needs are being met. Now, of course, we all are different sleepers. We all have our unique little quirks around what feels good for sleep and how much sleep we need and how we wake up and fall asleep. And that extends